What's going on? This is Big G from G Riders and welcome to another episode of Test and Rides. Today, I'm going to be testing out the 2018 Volkswagen Atlas. Welcome to the 2018 Volkswagen Atlas. This is Volkswagen's first attempt at a 7-seater family crossover, just really due to how popular SUVs and crossovers are nowadays. And you know, just to sell vehicles at this point, you got to make all different sizes of crossovers and SUVs. So Volkswagen, you know, inevitably made a 7-seater crossover. So this is the 2018 Volkswagen Atlas, and this, as you can see, is a pretty big vehicle. It's a 3-row crossover, and it's really nice quality interior, really nice to drive, and we'll get into kind of all that a little bit later. So this particular one I have here is the 2018 Volkswagen Atlas V6 SE. So this one has a 3.6 liter V6 making 276 horsepower and 266 foot-pounds of torque. This bad boy weighs about 4,500 pounds, which is average for a crossover this size. Like most crossovers this size are about that. And this vehicle is 4,500 pounds, but it has an 8-speed transmission. And because of that 8-speed transmission, this vehicle gets about 17 in the city and 23 out on the highway, which again is about average for SUVs this size. So this 2018 Volkswagen Atlas SE is about $37,000, and for that you get a lot of nice standard equipment like these cool LED, these headlights here are full LED. I'll show up a clip of kind of what they look like on and everything. Full LED headlights, daytime running lights, and turn signals. And you also get Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, leather seats, heated seats, all that stuff in this vehicle, and all-wheel drive. And that's really important, you know, especially up here in the Pacific Northwest where we have weather here, where sometimes you'll probably want to have all-wheel drive. But for all that good stuff, that's about $37,000, which honestly is a pretty good price, because this is about equivalent to like an Explorer XLT or like an SXT Durango or something like that. And this has just as much stuff as those cars does. Plus, this car also has a blind spot monitoring, rear cross traffic alert, which neither of those vehicles really have as standard equipment. And this Volkswagen Atlas has all that stuff standard, which is like, this is probably one of the better values for the money as for family crossovers, because it's big. It has nice safety features. It has good, you know, it has good features all around, and it's a pretty good price for, you know, $37,000 is a pretty good price for all the stuff that you're getting on this vehicle. So before we take a look at the interior of the vehicle, I want to talk a little bit about the styling of this vehicle. The styling of the Atlas is pretty good. I like it quite a bit. There's certain aspects of it that I didn't really like when it first came out, like these side lines that follow throughout the whole entire car. I thought it kind of looked kind of cheesy and looked like they were overdoing it a little bit. I also kind of thought the front looked like a 2005 Chevy Trailblazer. But, you know, kind of living with this vehicle for the last 4 days, driving it, seeing it lit up, like when you unlock it at nighttime, and, you know, just kind of looking at all these different angles, getting up close and personal with it, I think this is one of the better styled family crossovers on the market. It's not like it's cool, it's not as beautiful looking as the, you know, the CX-9, but it's rugged, it's tough, it's a really nice, rugged, tough looking family SUV. And I'm glad that they didn't go the whole route of, you know, making it look like a minivan without sliding doors, kind of like how the Honda Pilot looks. Honda Pilot's a good family SUV, but it looks kind of like a minivan, and I'm glad that they didn't do that with this vehicle. It looks like it belongs in the Volkswagen family. Also, I want to address that they said, I looked up, you know, of course, doing research on this vehicle when I'm getting ready for this video, and they were saying that this car replaced the Touareg. The Touareg was a whole different vehicle than this. This is more of a family crossover. The Touareg was more of a luxury vehicle, and that's why I really didn't do that well in the United States, just because it was a luxury vehicle from Volkswagen, and people don't really see Volkswagen in the United States as a luxury brand. We see luxury brand as Audi, you know, Mercedes, BMW, things like that. Volkswagen is just a run-of-the-mill. Volkswagen is like a German Ford for us. So, you know, this is not a Touareg replacement. This is like a whole different vehicle. If anything, it was like a replacement for the minivan, which This is way better than a minivan. Let's go ahead and take a look at the inside and see what it's looking like in there. Welcome to the interior of the Volkswagen Atlas. The interior of the Volkswagen Atlas is actually really nice, but it reminds me a lot of the Volkswagen Tiguan that I drove last week. Just because this is more like a bigger version of the Volkswagen Tiguan. It's like a bigger 7-seater version of the Tiguan. Everything in the vehicle is laid out really well and is really simple and it's really easy to use. I like how just here in the center console you got a couple touch sensitive buttons on the side here in the infotainment system, but like you just got 3 knobs for the climate control, and if you got automatic climate control it'll look different, of course. You got controls for the seat heaters, you got the rear climate control. All that stuff is really simple. There's only 5 knobs here in the center console, unlike how the Ford had many knobs and buttons. It's really simple, and it's when you're driving, it's really simple to figure out what you're trying to do in here. If we're looking over here on the dash, it has this nice aluminum silver finish all across the dash here. It looks really nice. It has some black stitching up here on the dash. And I like this little cubby hole right here. This is really cool for, to sit a phone if you got to do that. I'll sit my phone right there. Or if you want to stand it up if you need to stand it up for any reason, or, that's a good little storage place there. You got your up above bins where you can fit a couple pair of sunglasses in there. You got your bunch of different buttons up here that do things. I'm not gonna get into all that stuff. The push button starter switch is down here right by the shifter, just like the Volkswagen Tiguan I drove last week. But I like down by the shifter area is a lot more clean in this vehicle than I think in the Tiguan, because you just have everything is really close together. And with the Tiguan, everything was they were on 2 different sides, and I like having a side just for buttons and my knobs, and the parking brake all in one area, and then having the cup holder in a separate area. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and fire it up. Just looking at the center, the gauge cluster here, I'm not going to talk about that at all, just because that's exactly the same as it was in the Volkswagen Tiguan. It's really laid out. It's laid out really well. It's easy to see. It's easy to use. Very intuitive. Not going to talk about all that because it's not just wasting time. So, in the infotainment system, works really well. It's really responsive. It's really quick. It also has Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. The graphics are really nice. Like when you look here, it looks like exactly the inside of this car, which is pretty nice. And like you have different things. You can change your menu here. You're in the energy consumer, so if I have like the lights on, the heated seats on, all that stuff, it'll tell me what's drawing fuel economy away from the vehicle, which is kind of cool. Pointless, but kind of cool. I got my driving data there, the miles per gallon that I've had. This kind of has like my miles per gallon, and basically telling me to drive a little more conservative. It kind of tells you all that. You got your vehicle status, got a nice picture of an Atlas there, and it's really nice, and it has the same cool graphics when you're in the drive select. So I'm going to change the drive select mode. I'm going to tap the button in the middle there, and I had it in sport mode because I was driving it. You could change it to off-road, normal, snow. So you click the button in the middle, you can change between Eco, Normal, and Sport for your regular driving modes. And then when you turn the knob, I turn it over to the snow mode or to the off-road mode, over to the off-road custom. And you can change that too, which is pretty cool. And also that setting turns the traction control off because you probably want to do some fun stuff off-road. But I'm not doing all that today. This car also has start-stop technology, and I'm not a fan of it, but oh well. I'm going to go ahead and throw the car in reverse, look at the backup camera. The backup camera is pretty clear, and you can change your view of the backup camera. So if I'm trying to park, it's showing all the cars that are around me and kind of where my steering is. It tells you where you're going to put your car. We're in parallel parking, which is really cool. You also have, if you're trying to tow, it also shows how close you are to your tow hitch. And also your rear crash traffic, so it gives you kind of a wider view of what's behind you. This backup camera is really good. Like, this car doesn't have the 360 camera or nothing like that, but that is a great feature for a backup camera to have. Let's go to the radio. Everything's standard issue with that. I'm not going to go into that, but this infotainment system is really intuitive. It works really well. It's pretty quick. It's quick and responsive, and the graphics are pretty good. And with this car being only a $37,000 car, that's definitely a big plus. All right, let's talk about the seats. The seats are average in my opinion. Like, these aren't the actual real leather seats. I don't believe. I think these are leatherette seats. You don't get leather till you get into the SEL Premium Atlas, but you have like some nice white contrast stitching that kind of matches up on this inner center console. It's you definitely can tell this is a well-built Volkswagen product, and I definitely applaud them on making a very good family crossover that looks like this. It looks like a Volkswagen should. You know, high quality. Looks like you could definitely tell they use high quality materials, and you know, they definitely took time into engineering this car well. But for the most part, the front cabin of the Volkswagen Atlas is laid out really well. It's really high quality, and I definitely like it. What comes to mind is this is almost Audi-like. All right, welcome to the back seat of the Atlas, and the back seat of the Atlas is really comfortable. Remember, I'm over 6 feet tall and over 300 pounds, and I'm really comfortable in this back seat. My shoes fit under the seats nicely. This seat is actually back as far as it goes, for like, you know, the bottom goes, and I can sit back here comfortably. And these seats also slide forward and slide back, and these things also recline with the lever on the side. You just lay them back, and it's even more comfortable. And the quality that's in the front seat remains back here. Has some nice USB ports, and also has control for the. Also has climate controls for the rear passengers back here. Also, it also has these nice little nifty. Also has a little sunshade here on the side, so if you got a baby back here, or a little kid, or somebody in the back seat that want to be blocked from the sun, you could do that. And like, there's also like a lot of little storage pockets. There's cup holders. There's spots on the sides here. It's very nice back seat. Very nice back seat. All right. This car is a claim that this car can fit an adult in the third row. So let's actually see if they can do that. I'm gonna go ahead and get in the back of the third row. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and hop in the third row and see how it feels. Honestly, they weren't kidding when they say adult can fit in the third row. So this seat is pushed up a little bit further, because most people are not going to need to have this slide all the way back to be in the third row. And this is pretty impressive. Like, I got plenty of space under the seats for my feet. Like, there's some decent storage space back here, and there's the own little vent back here, which is pretty nice. And yeah, that claim that the Volkswagen said that an adult could sit in the third row, it's true. I'm a big dude. I'm above average size of an adult, and I fit back here pretty comfortably, and it wasn't too bad to get back here either. So definitely, I feel like Volkswagen, this is definitely the biggest family crossover out there as terms of space. Definitely. When you get in the Volkswagen Atlas, you first notice how nice this thing is to drive. It's really quiet, it's really comfortable, it's really secure on the road. It feels almost Audi-like. I'll say this, I've been kind of mentioning that in this video a lot. This car is really Audi-like. So it's really comfortable to drive. Like, the V6 is buttery smooth, like 276 horsepower. That's adequate for this car. You know, like, this thing gets moving pretty good. And it's just so comfortable to drive. Like, so you're looking at the windshield of the Atlas, you can see out of the road pretty clearly. You can see over the hood pretty good, so it makes it easier for you to kind of place the front when you're driving this car. And that's one of the biggest things when driving a big car like this. You got to be able to kind of see a little bit over the hood so you can kind of see where you're placing the car. It makes it a lot easier to drive. Also, looking out both sides of the mirrors, the side mirrors are really big and really clear, and you can see out of them pretty good, and they also have blind spot monitoring, which is really nice. This car definitely has a pretty big footprint on the road. It's a big car, like, there's no doubt about it. Like, it's probably it probably has about as big of a footprint on the road as like a Ford Explorer does, but it doesn't drive as big as a Ford Explorer. It actually when you drive it feels a little bit smaller than a Ford Explorer. It feels close to the size of a Durango. The Durango is big too, but the Durango doesn't feel as big as something like the Explorer does on the road. But this V6 is pretty smooth. Like, let's do a little acceleration here. See, that's not bad at all. Like, it's not the fastest vehicle in the world. It's not a sports car, but it's not really meant to do that. This is a family crossover, and you know, like, that wasn't bad at all, considering this is a family crossover. So one of the biggest surprises of driving this Atlas is it handles actually surprisingly really good. So it kind of handles in between how a Ford Explorer and a Dodge Durango handles, with the Durango kind of being one of the better ones. So going around the corners in this thing, it does have some body roll because it's an SUV, of course, but you feel a little bit more confident than you feel a little bit more confident in this car than you would in something like a Ford Explorer, because even though this is a family crossover, it's built on the MQB platform, which kind of underpins the Golf. This is kind of a stretched version of that, and it still has some pretty good handling qualities for a family crossover. Yeah, you know, talking about handling in a family crossover is kind of ridiculous, but you know, like, that means something to me. Like, I feel like this car handles well on the road. Like, when you have a good handling big SUV like this, it gives you a lot more confidence, a lot more safe and secure feeling on the roads. And I feel like definitely feel safe in this vehicle. I feel like if you have to do like an emergency maneuver in this thing, you'll be okay. It'll do it just fine. What don't I like about this vehicle? I like a lot of things about it, but there's a couple things I don't like. Honestly, I don't like that, you know, with this car being as much as it is, it doesn't have any of the front collision stuff. The Volkswagen Tiguan that I tested last week had at least the front assist, and I feel like they should make the front assist standard. Yes, you get that on the SE with the technology package, but I feel like that should be standard on the SE, just because this is a $37,000 vehicle. Like, they should at least have that on here. And I know, like, a lot of family crossovers don't come with that stuff standard, but I feel like Volkswagen, at the price point of this vehicle and kind of the value for money that this is, I feel like they should go ahead and just throw that in there and just get rid of. They should just make the SE technology package the SE model and get rid of that package. And if you're going straight from there, you can go straight from the SC to the SEL. You know, I feel like that makes sense. 7-seater family crossovers, because, you know, with the family crossover, that's a very competitive market nowadays, and you really do have to make a good vehicle to stand out from the rest. And I definitely think that this vehicle stands out from the rest of them. Just because it's a Volkswagen, it's not just because it's a Volkswagen, it's the first year of the model. It's because when you get it and you drive it, it has so much space. It feels so good on the road. It doesn't have a lot of road noise. It feels like a luxury SUV, and that's what kind of separates itself from the other models that it competes with, you know, stuff like the Ford Explorer, the Dodge Durango, the Toyota Highlander. Those are all good vehicles too, but I just feel like this kind of stands out from those, just because Volkswagen put a lot of R&D and engineering, everything that they kind of pulled from, like, cars like the Q7 and the Q5 and Audi products, basically, and kind of threw some of that in the Volkswagen Atlas here. And, you know, this is the most luxurious riding and driving of the family crossovers, in my opinion. So honestly, like, if you're looking for a family crossover that's gonna provide a great ride, have plenty of space for your family and your family stuff, and it's gonna just be you know, something different on the road, you should definitely take a look at the 2018 Volkswagen Atlas.